Good morning, everyone. Are you excited? Are you embarrassed for all that we're going to put you through? I feel like we did enough of that last week.
Wow. Well, Pastor John, Pastor Helen, what we thought would be a great way to start is maybe just, I know I gave you an introduction, but you guys would do a better job of just, what you guys have been doing and how you've been helping the landscape of relationships, marriage, dating over decades now. And how did you get into it? That's, I think, for me, is my first question.
That's a really good question. We never actually intentionally planned to end up being these people that speak about relationships a lot or been on television for years, decades actually. Never planned it, but God takes your mess and makes it your message. So if anybody in here, which probably includes everybody, is going through anything, get ready, because you're going through it for a reason bigger than you. And you actually turn around and get to help people as a result. So both Helen and I were born and raised in Vancouver, which is really rare. Very few people you find that anymore. But
Killarney High School.
We went to Killarney High School.
Football player, cheerleader. Yeah, I know it's a shock, but yep, that was our beginnings.
I was the middle linebacker, which you wouldn't know what that is, on the football team. And somebody told me I was in grade 12 that was a girl that liked me and you should go out with her, and that really didn't get my attention because I stuttered really bad and I was afraid of girls, never talked to a girl. But he said, if you do, don't mention God because she's one of those Christians, and this is her. Yeah. We've been married for 45 years, and Helen will tell you the story that the last 42 she's enjoyed.
41, actually. It's all right. Your math is
worse
fabulous.
all the time.
No. But you know what? Ours was a dream of getting married, meeting in high school and having a dream of having this amazing marriage without any challenges. We found out that's not true for anybody. The dream is fantastic. And the truth is, where we have come in our marriage and is way beyond what we would ever have dreamed, because God's like that. He always has more for you. There's wherever you are, and even if you're here today and you think our marriage is great, it can get so much better and better and better. If you're here and you've struggled in relationships, whether it's in marriage or in friendship or your family is complicated, I have good news for you. God can take anything and make it better. So we're all on a journey of relationships. And honestly, this is what church is. Church is really community. Church is friendship. Church is relationship. And we have to get really good at it because there is a very, very broken world that is dying literally for what God has entrusted to us. It's just, even Jesus said, I no longer call you servants because the servant doesn't know what his master's doing, but I have called you my friends because I have revealed to you everything the Father's revealed to me. So it's this beautiful journey of friendship and of relationship. And I love that the local church like this one, which by the way, well done. John and I are overwhelmed and beyond thankful for these two and their heart and for the team that's come along, for what's happening here. Never underestimate the power of what's happening in the room right now and how it changes not just your life, but the community around you. So we are beyond grateful.
Wow. I'm actually a little jealous. I wish I was younger again, but we planted our church 33 and a half years ago, and it was nothing like this. It was nothing like this.
No, he was,
when I say nothing,
the worship leader with an accordion. It was nothing like this. Nothing like this.
I mean, people had to really be committed to come to the church that we. This is awesome.
Just so we can get a little bit into knowing you guys a little bit more, what would be one of the key things, or maybe there's a couple things that you admire about each other? I'm helping you guys with this question, for sure.
There's so many things I admire, obviously.
Do you notice how long she has to think to answer that question?
No, that's not the case at all. The truth is there's so many things. How do I not just speak for hours? That would be the challenge. But there's so many things I admire. Obviously, he's really a joy to look at. That he's just gotten better with age, and now he wears glasses, that's brand new. But anyhow, he's rocking those too. But actually, one of the things I admire the very most about John is his willingness to grow and to continually change as a husband. and as a father, as a friend, as a pastor, because I think the journey of life is not so much who we are in a moment, but who we're becoming. And I love that about John. John has always been willing that if he sees something that needs to change, he really wants to be the very best he can be. And I think of our journey of moving forward in marriage and family and friendship is the fact that we can talk about really hard things. We can challenge each other hard, and we do. But the goal is always to be better. And I don't know anybody who's been more willing to say, help me be what if you see something, help me be better. And I love that. There's so many great qualities, but I think that he's teachable, he's open, wants to learn. And I love that.
What's really simple about her, there's many things, but I've never met a more generous person on the planet than my wife. And really when you meet somebody, you fall in love with what you could be because of them. And I'm on a journey of wanting to be more and more generous, big-hearted, and this is the one that's leading.
Wow. I need to work on that answer when someone asks me. Just because you've got lots of stuff, and they put it together so well. That sounded bad, I know.
Do you want me to say some things about you now? Or you're good?
I would love to
Sounds
hear it.
like
Wouldn't you
that
love
was-
to hear it?
Sounds like he was baiting you for that.
I think they'd all love to hear it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, what do I admire most about Ben? Oh, like I said, there are so many things that you could pick at. I think I admire about Ben is his pick-me-up and never give up attitude for the things of the kingdom. Yeah,
So
and I'm so happy to go along and be supported by that and support him in that as well. But you will not find someone who has the tenacity and audacity like Ben.
Wow. Wow.
That's my turn now.
He's just absorbing
I was
that
like-
gorgeous truth.
We can go home now, right? Oh, well, Emma, I think outside of making me constantly a better person, not from trying to change me, but inspiring me, your dedication towards just discipline and mastering each thing as it comes puts me to shame regularly because I'm a good ideas guy. I'm the guy that's off the blocks real quick and then wondering what track I'm running on, but you're amazing that you can stay focused and passionate about the same thing year after year, seeing the fruit just get bigger. You've never reached a capacity, you just keep going for more, and that inspires me. It also levels me out and keeps me focused because I asked God for a wife that would run harder than me so I could never stop running, and he answers your prayers. And I've sometimes been puffed, but you've been amazing, babe.
Was that nice, church?
So nice.
Do you know how nice that was for us? So in your relationships, you should take time to do that.
Right.
To actually look at the person that you're with. It might be in a romantic relationship or it might be in a friendship, and actually appreciate. I know we have a lot of fun joking around and having like a great community of laughing together, and we have a lot of joy. But these moments, they don't have to be all the time, but when they do happen, I really encourage you. They're really sacred moments. So, love you, babe.
Oh, well, thank you. I knew John and Helen were going to be great for us.
Can I interject something? Just because that's what I do all the time. I'm always, and furthermore. But with what Emma just said, as a family, we found this out kind of by accident, but it's something that now has become a tradition or a value in our home. We regularly take times at mealtime to kind of raise a glass and to honor who's at the table.
Wow.
Often we wait for big significant moments like someone's retiring or something, a birthday or whatever. That's great. But in the unexpected moments, to as a family, like to sit at your table and to acknowledge something, especially not when everything's going great, but when things are hard, to actually take a moment to celebrate the people that are closest to you. So do it in family. We do it as a staff and as a team, but often we relegate it to the special moments. Why not take an ordinary moment and make it special and acknowledge that? You could all do that today.
Alrighty, so I've got the first question here, and it's around the concept of lifelong commitment, because I think we live in a world today that we just see we commit and then it's okay to disengage and uncouple is the way of projecting what we're really doing, which is just giving up on something or quitting on something. And so, in Hebrews 12:2 it says, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame. They press on towards the goal at both times. And I think in my own heart, in my own marriage, that pursuit of, okay, I want a lifelong commitment here, but how do you achieve that in a healthy context when it comes to marriage, or even for those who are single or dating? I think if we get our heads around this early on, we're going to be up for more success in our marriage.
Well, I think that it's so true. Be aware that you have an enemy. You have an enemy that despises God-appointed, God-ordained relationships, whether it's a relationship to this community as church, in marriage, as family. He's always trying to pull us apart. And so unless you've already made the commitment, which we have, to always and forever, we will overcome any battle. We will fight the battle. We will take out the giants that have come against us. We've made that commitment. Because be sure, a battle is always going to be there. And if it's not here right now, like John likes to say, just wait, it's coming. But if you haven't already made a commitment, so to me, when we hit a hard place, and they will, we already decided we're all in. We are going to figure out how to get through to the other side. But we live in a world, and I know it feels like, well, you just have to look at statistics. It's getting more and more pulled apart. Do you know that Vancouver is considered the loneliest city in North America? I want to change that.
Yeah,
when I found that out, and I wasn't shocked, I was saddened, but I wasn't shocked to hear that. And how many people do not connect into community because we're constantly being pulled out. It's like us and them. There's always a tension to not stay in relationship. It is a fight to stay in. But unless you've already decided, I'm in. So when John and I have hit hard places in our marriage, and we have, and we will continue to, the answer is already, we're in. We have made the declaration and said it over and over again. No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. We will figure this out. And unless you do that with, there are some relationships actually along life, I have said goodbye to, and I needed to, because they weren't healthy relationships. But there are healthy relationships that God has put in your life. And without having the commitment, it's not, I'm going to commit. I have committed. I'm in. I'm committed to Jesus. I'm committed to my relationships. And to me, I start from that point. I don't think about it and think, well, am I in or not? No, I'm in. And I'm going to figure out how to get there.
I think the word is so important, to be a committed person, okay? It's not so much you're committed to somebody. Are you committed? Are you a committed person?
Right.
Commitment is a characteristic. You don't turn characteristics on and off. You're either committed or you're not.
Yeah.
And commitment is a muscle, okay? Think about it as a muscle. If you go to the gym, you can build your muscles, but you don't build your muscles in nice, relaxing form. You build your muscles by working, by doing the difficult, by overcoming whatever weight you put on that bar. So commitment is something you build into your life. I think it's the core muscle of relationships. And if you're not married, say, and you're maybe wondering, is that guy or is that girl really what I'm looking for? What you need to do is watch them from a distance. So sometimes when you get involved, they'll be what you want them to be. And if you watch from a distance, watch and see, are they committed? Are they committed to church, to God? Are they committed in their relationships? Are they committed to their family? Because if they're not committed everywhere else, but they come and tell you how committed they are to you, don't believe them.
Right.
Commitment is a muscle, and I think it's a key to understanding relationships. And every one of us needs to grow in commitment. It's not something you have at birth. You build it. It's a muscle.
I find in this day and age, we like to take a word and let that word be whatever it needs to be for us. So often you'll have like a word like marriage, and marriage now isn't marriage based upon its characteristics, but based upon how I want it to be. Right. And we see that in the world all the time, where people take, oh, well, feminist means this or it means that. And the word in itself is malleable, and people aren't fully understanding what marriage is. So if you were to define marriage from its original God-breathed description, what would that look like?
Thank you. That's a great question. Marriage is the commitment, which means it's a one-time that keeps on timing. It's a one-time decision that keeps on making a decision. But it's a one-time decision to love for the rest of your life. And love is not static. Love is dynamic. Love's growing. Love's changing. Love's moving. Helen says it like this: love is a heart that moves. Okay? If you're in love, you're always moving closer. So if you've been married for 45 years, I hear people say, I wish I loved her the way I first loved her. Why? Why do you want to go backwards? You should always be going forwards. You should always have a goal. If you stand at the altar and you make a commitment to make a vow to love this person for the rest of your life, you need to have a goal that you're going to be more and more in love, which really happens as you grow closer and closer. But marriage is the commitment to love each other until death do us part. I love that part. It's very, very strong. Till death do us part. We're going to keep loving and loving more. And so, it takes commitment, but it takes progress, growth.
I'd love to say, too, because of the culture, you said that so well, because of the culture that we live in, that we can also have this thought of, okay, I said I was committed, or someone told me they were committed, but they didn't. And so there's this brokenness. And so we often start, when we look at the future from a perspective of it's already broken, I can't do this, that we come from a place of feeling that we're less than. And so if you're in this room and you've been through a divorce, or you've had a broken family, or you've had broken relationships, we often, with that lens, view the future. And I think we need to take back what the word commitment, what the word marriage, what the word church, and anything like that actually means, what God intended for it, and start from a place of, yeah, I may have a broken past, and maybe there's a lot of brokenness behind me, but I'm not starting from that place. I'm starting from today with a fresh view and a fresh commitment. Every single day, God's mercies are new. So don't build your future based on the brokenness of the past. Build your future, everything that God's calling you to commit to, with a fresh perspective and a fresh understanding of where God wants to take you. Don't do it from a broken vantage point. Do it from the position of wholeness, because that's the miracle of God's work and his power on the inside of you. We are not broken humanity that just cannot get to the finish line. We are healed, whole, we are strong. There is another in the fire with you. You're not on your own. So go forward with a dream of the future, not from a place of I'm less than. You are not broken. You are healed in Jesus' name.
Just taking the thought of, a lot of the times I talk to people and they say, well, I've come from a broken family. My parents are divorced, or I had an absent father or mother, or whatever the case be. Do you think, in many ways, that how our families have operated, our family origin, affect our ability to have lifelong commitments?
Absolutely, because all of us have a vision, whether you know it or not. And most of us, our vision is by default. Yeah. It's what we've seen. And what we've seen, unless we purposely, intentionally change it, is what we're going to get. Yeah. And but Jesus said it this way. He said, make the tree good and its fruit will be good. Yeah. He didn't say, check out what kind of tree you are, and that's the kind of fruit you're going to have. No, he said, make the tree, which means make the vision, make the inside, make what produces fruit good, and the fruit will be good. Yeah. So it is our responsibility for every one of us, and not just for us, our responsibility to build a healthy, positive vision for our future. Why? Because it's not just about us. Right. There's generations on the other side of us getting it right today. But being in church, one of the big reasons that God invented this thing called church is that we can't do life alone. Right. We need to be together, and really what we're wanting is to be around people that are going to inspire us. That's the reason why Ben married Emma. because he needs to be around someone that's going to inspire him to be better. And we should be doing that for each other. But
when Ben and I first got married, we were like little punk kids, and we both came from very strong families, both really strong mothers. And so we kind of battled as to who actually got to wear the pants in the relationship. I put up a fight, but I look good in a skirt, so I was okay with that. But one of
So do I.
He's actually got great legs.
Got great legs.
But one of the things that we faced as a young couple was, how do we deal with obstacles and conflict? He was a fight, I was a flight, and we had to navigate what that looked like. So what are some pieces of advice that you can give to people when it comes to, say, you might have two fighters, you might have two flighters, you might have a mixture of both. What do you say to those people?
We're like the fight and flight. Not everyone is. John's definitely, he just ran away from me. And I'm like, you will not run away. We will fix it tonight. Do not let the sun go down on our wrath. We are going to have it out. And he's like, I'm leaving you, woman. You know, I was being very biblical, but also very bossy. So what do you think, John?
well, the first thing you have to understand is that you're not enemies.
No.
You're on the same team. That's so important you get that. And it's not easy, especially when the temperature rises and you're upset and there's anger, you know, and the fright and flight stuff, you know, that's the hormones. And you're ready to fight. And you think that other person is your enemy. In other words, you're in a boxing ring and the bell rings and both of you enter and you start swinging and you wanted to win. But in that event, no one wins. No one wins. Instead, you got to learn to do this. Before the bell rings, walk around the ring, put your arm around the other person, and identify that we're on the same team. Okay? Now, we may have some disagreements about something, but we're on the same team. And then the next thing you need to do is identify what is the issue. Okay, what is the something that we're we're not really, this is the one thing. And then put your two heads together and try to come up with the answer of how do we deal with the issue. So many people let the issue become more important than the relationship. Right. Okay? You shouldn't let the issue overshadow what's more important is that you have this relationship, then you love each other and you have a commitment to the future, and there's gonna be struggles. A lot of people think, oh man, we hit a struggle, that's a problem. No, it's a problem if you never hit a struggle.
Yeah.
If you never hit a struggle, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Because really the reason we came together is to change. And change literally means there's something different about us that we need to work on.
One of the things that have been a secret for us, because we're two strong personalities, there's no denying it. And so in this relationship, like I said earlier, we've made the commitment, we're going to figure this out. And so one of the things about when you hit hard places and when you are intensely angry, and that's normal, the Bible says be angry, but don't sin. Well, how do you do that? Because that's not easy. That's not human nature, is to not sin, because I want to be angry and sin, in the sense of tell you exactly and lose my temper. But that's not an option if you want to keep building the future. So what do you do with that? John and I have learned how, and we weren't great at it in the beginning, but I think we are great problem solvers and know how to have a good fight, a healthy fight, and get it onto the other side and really feel like we have a sense of victory over that. One of the things that we do is, like John said, we identify the problem, but the first thing we do before we even deal with the issue, I will say to him, there's something I'd like to talk to you about. Is this a good time? Because it's not always the right time. And so he may have had a really hard day, he might have had stuff going on, and he's not going to be fully present to engage in this conversation. So what I want to make sure is this a good time to talk about it? And probably 9 out of 10 times he goes, yeah, sure, what's going on? Does he like it? No. Do we like talking? No, but we're going to. And so he'll say, sure, let's talk about it. But if that other 10% of the time he goes, you know what? It's not a great day to talk about it. It's not right now. I'm like, all right, cool. So when do you think we can? and he's not going to tell me 2020, like that would be great, like maybe next year. It's going to be in the next little while, but when we're both in a frame of mind where we're going to engage the situation, speak honorably to one another, and actually come to a resolution, because the goal is not just for them to it's to understand one another. If there's tension, what is going on? And then give one another the grace to deal with it in a time and a place where they're actually able to engage. And here's just another thing. If there's parents in the room, or, and don't ever do it in public. Aren't you glad Jesus doesn't, and the Holy Spirit doesn't come and like get on a microphone and tell the whole world what an idiot you are right now? He doesn't do that. He is gracious. He's kind. And I think that we need to do that with one another either. Never have an argument in front of your children. Don't be doing that. I mean, there might be something going on, but think about it. You can handle it a lot different than your children can. Parents that are consistently arguing in front of their children are constantly causing fear in their children. So be adult enough to take it outside of the room. Don't ever shame someone or out somebody in a way that is to belittle them. Sarcasm is another thing. It's not funny. It's not kind. It's actually hurtful. And so rein it in. Be honoring and speak honoring, and do it in a place that is safe for you, for all of you, and is kind to the relationship and to your future. And it's not that hard to do. Some of you might think, well, I've just got a bad temper. No, if you have a bad temper, it means actually you've let it get out of control. So rein it back, because when you're mad, the truth is, and this is, John, having a medical background, loves to teach me, how people get red faces when they're really angry, and the reason is because their blood supply is drained out of their brain and they have no capacity to talk. So, am I saying that right, Dr. Burns? Yes. So anyhow, come to, we say count to 10. No, count to about 1,000. And then re-engage, because your brain will actually be engaged to have a healthy, meaningful, helpful conversation.
I don't think I've ever counted to 1,000 in my life.
Neither have I. Oh, well.
For any reason, like.
I don't know if you've had a pause of 1,000
Oh,
seconds.
come on.
I'm just teasing.
Last week we spoke on the premise, and when we discussed the issue or the concept of sex, that it's not just physical. There's always a spiritual aspect to it. And so in that conversation, we talked about the negative effects of that spiritual intimacy outside a covenant. Today, I would love to talk about the empowering aspect of that intimacy within the covenant of marriage. And how do you think, you see it all the time, thriving couples have this deep shared faith. How do we maintain that? How do we initiate that? Like, what are some strategies we can put in place as married people to establish a healthy, thriving spiritual intimacy?
Well, first of all, is to recognize how important it is.
Yeah.
And then I think... And we've been teaching this for decades, really, and there's so many things you could say about it. I'm sure I'm actually going to go online and check out what you taught last week.
We need to keep learning.
Yeah. But out of all the stuff we've ever talked about, you know what the most important thing is? Talk about it. How come in our world today, the whole topic of sex is only allowed in a negative way? You hardly ever hear it in a church. It used to be when we would go someplace and they'd ask us to teach on it. You say the word, and everybody, oh, they said it. God created it. It's a God thing, not a devil thing. And so to talk about it's so important. And if you want to keep intimacy in marriage healthy and alive, then the most important thing, I think, is you can actually have conversation to talk about how you're doing. The kind of things you hear so often is, so how often should a married couple have sex? Like, what's normal? And there is no such thing as normal. Okay? Normal, like Helen says, is the setting on your dryer. But what's normal is what works for you two. What satisfies you both? Do you know that your spouse is satisfied? Do you feel like there's things you want or things that you need to talk about? And so there's so many things we could say about sex, but I think the one that it hardly ever gets said is talk about it. So important. Thank you for doing that in church.
Anytime. Did you guys in your relationship bring different assumptions or expectations of each other when it came to physical intimacy?
When it came to physical intimacy, yes. I didn't know anything. Like, we've never been with anybody else. At least that's his story, and he's sticking to it. No, I know that's the truth. It's the truth. I always say, I know he didn't ever kiss anybody before me either, because you could tell. He was practicing. It's all good. He is so improved.
After the first kiss, she just laughed.
I did not laugh, but I'm like, yeah, that was a first. I think you kissed your mother that way. But anyhow. But after 47 years of being together, it's pretty wow. We still kiss all the time. It's all good. But yeah, there is expectations that you come in, and I think God made it so it's not just easy, in the sense of Hollywood would paint a picture, and it's the worst picture that could be painted. Like, you come out and you're like, whatever, there's going to be fireworks and everything, and baby, you are a firework, but it's taken a while to figure out how to be fireworks at the same time, and that's not always easy. Yeah, there is innuendo in there as well, but oh well.
Come on.
But it is a journey. Like, you come in with expectations, and then how about after you kind of sort of figure everything out, and you're like, I think we're getting this now, because that's just a reality. Then a baby comes into the equation. It's like, John is like, well, that's great, we have a kid, but what about me? And
like that baby.
Careful now.
Those are mine.
All of that to say, in the sexual arena, in that area, there are seasons. Yes, they hijack breasts. That's what kids do. And poor boys, they're like, anyhow, we have this. But you get through that, and then there's another season. There's always a season that we're navigating, and I think that's one of the beauties of long-term committed relationships. It's not a one-night stand. It's not it is giving your life to one another and being whatever you need to be to grow the relationship, to be committed to the relationship. It is navigating seasons. It's going through times when you're healthy or when you're not healthy, when you're maybe struggling with mental health, or when you're you're overwhelmed with a new job or whatever. There's just seasons. But one of the things that I know that God created the sexual union for is to serve as glue in a marriage, a commitment to one another. And the Bible isn't shy about talking about it. I love that by the second chapter in the Bible, it talks about Adam and Eve were both naked, and neither of them felt any shame. If we could get back to the beauty and the purity of what God created it for and commit to one another to have a lifelong relationship and share that intimacy, body, soul, and spirit. Because some people may be great in the physical realm, but they're not great spiritually. They don't share their hearts and lives with one another. I want all of all three working, body, soul, and spirit, in our lives, and to make that commitment for a lifetime. And you're itching to say something or fix something I said.
No, I just wanted to add something. The key is, what is sex?
Yeah.
And sex is physical intimacy, loving each other. It is love, and love is giving. In our world, if you, like she mentioned, if you watch the Hollywood thing, it's mostly about getting, and it's opposite. And so you have to figure out, how do you serve that person you're married to in terms of what can you do that would most fulfill, most satisfy that person. And again, going back to your family that you grew up with. I mean, we all saw such difference, and so what you have to do is, when you get married, you have to start and talk and figure it out together.
This is funny, because you're going to go there.
My family, I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm the second oldest of 11, and my mom and dad, the reason that she laughed when I first kissed her is they never kissed or anything. I mean, maybe once a year at Christmas or something like that. And when they kissed, it was like 2 telephone poles colliding. There was almost like sparks on the other side of it. And there was no evidence of intimacy. They were doing something, 11 kids, but no evidence of it. And then I met her, and her mom and dad, it's like, get a room, would you? It was like overly, and we had to figure it out. And again, it comes back to talk.
Talking about talk, communication in any relationship, whether it's within marriage or dating, needs to be defined and established really well. Communication, it says in James to be slow to speak and quick to listen. So communication from your point, being both great communicators, how have you found that within your relationship? How do you find time to talk about the things that need to be talked about, or the things that don't need to be talked about that just sow into your relationship?
Such a great question. And really, the biggest thing I ever learned, and really what kind of brought us into the whole thing of teaching relationships is I was the worst. God takes your mess and makes it your message. I was the worst. I mean, I stuttered for 25 years. I didn't even answer a telephone. And I'm teaching on, communication. How'd that happen? Well, I met this talker. Her mom will tell you, she came out of the womb talking. Most kids have to learn. She already knew. And so
she said, I haven't shut up since. It's kind of true.
Right. She hasn't shut up since. But so we were so different. And then we have 3 daughters, 3 little girls that they owned my heart. No question about it. And I learned this thing, which has become a principle and a tradition and something I think everyone needs to take on. When my oldest daughter was 8, I was traveling all over because I got filled with the Holy Spirit and God loosened my tongue and now I couldn't shut up anymore. And everybody wanted to know what was happening. So I was out traveling a lot, and on the way home, I was missing my family, 3 little girls, 8, 7, and 5. And I got this idea, and I bought this card, and when I got home, it was a little kid's card, and I put it on her pillow. Dear Angela, please, would you be my special date on Thursday night? Love, Daddy. Well, I just thought it was a cool idea. Never heard of it before. Got home that Thursday night and walked in the door, looked up. We had a staircase that went up, and out stepped the queen with the chin up like this, hair perfect, a little bit of a daddy dress, which means lots of frills, and then she starts to walk down the stairs. That's the wedding walk. Every little girl practices it for the most important man in her world, and I was surprised. It was me. But I didn't miss it. Put on my best black suit, took my date to the put my arm, took her by the arm, opened the car door, did all this stuff, had this nice candlelight meal together, and then I thought, how do you talk to an 8-year-old? I had no idea what was going on in her world. And I made the greatest discovery. I started just asking her some questions like, what do you do all day? I don't know. Do you have friends? I really had no idea. See, I was this guy, and she was this girl, and I loved her. I would have taken a bullet for her, but I had no idea what was going on in her world. And she began to open up. And here's the key. I discovered what communication is. Everyone has their own world, and it's just as important as yours.
That's right.
Communication is when you get in. Okay? They want you in their world, but you need to want to know. You need to want to understand. And so when you communicate, you need to recognize the goal is to understand. Walk a mile in their shoes, see through their eyes, hear through their ears. And a big life isn't a life with more cars and more houses. It's a life with more hearts that you're in, that you get to understand. And you can't do it any other way than communication. So just to understand that was the biggest key for me. And so, I've been dating my daughters, and I still do. Now I date my grandkids. And, about 3 or 4 months after dating my daughters, I thought, this is so good, why don't I date my wife? So really, we've been dating, and dating is so important. What is it? Well, it is a special planned time. It's not going to happen. Just because you're together and you love each other doesn't mean you're going to communicate. You need to actually make time for it, a special planned time to connect, to communicate. And
I love this idea too. A while ago, I was thinking about this of, we get the whole thing about Wi-Fi and getting a download. So I think that this is what often happens. You can both be in the same room, just like you could be here but not downloading Wi-Fi. You can be in the room and in the proximity but not be accessing the download from somebody else, because we're not doing the work to connect. And what connection is to actually, you know how it is, you're looking for Wi-Fi and then suddenly that little circle goes round and round and then you're like, check, connected. And that takes intention, because until you're connected, you can't get the download. And I feel like so often we think, well, we're sleeping together, we're having meals together, we're in the same room. That doesn't mean you're getting a download. And that has to be intentional. It has to be consistent. Because if we're not, what happens is we go from crisis to crisis. And now there's a battle that we need to fight. And that's the next time we're communicating. That's truly heart to heart. And if that is your pattern of really only doing the heart connection is when there's a challenging conversation, we're missing the opportunity. If you have lots of meaningful conversations, once in a while you're going to have the hard conversations, but they're easy to navigate when you've already had lots of time connected to one another's hearts. So it has to be very intentional and get good at it. John and I are very different communicators. Very different communicators. I fix things, if you will, by talking it through and processing it. John is just like, can I give you the answer? I'll give it to you now. You don't have to go through the process. I've got the answer. But sometimes I want him to just hear me. I don't want him to fix me. I just want him to hear me. Figure out how you work and then just work it. And it's really quite fun to grow older together and to realize you're each other's best friends, you're each other's greatest support, and that doesn't happen accidentally. It's very intentionally that you build it, but it gets easier and easier and easier. The battles may get bigger, but you've got the tools to get through whatever you need to get through.
Just with the last few moments we have together on stage, I thought it'd be a nice way to end our session this morning with just asking you, which of your shared memories are most meaningful to you?
Sure, you want me to cry or something? Shared memories. We have so many. But I think it's looking at, I think maybe now looking back, certainly there's all the big moments of, having children, building families, celebrating big moments. But I think our shared memories are always that sense of, you've always been there. When I look at the happiest moments in my life, the most meaningful moments in my life, I've just realized you've been there. And there's nobody I'd rather share it with, because we honestly have way too many memories and moments to share today. But what I want more than anything is the one that has my heart the most, to be in those moments with me. And you're in all of them. Yeah.
There's so many, like she says, but I think if you recognize the greatest benefit of marriage, which is a commitment of love for a lifetime, okay? And when do you need that love the most? When it's easy? You need that when it's tough. And do you know that life's full of tough? Mm-hmm. Do you know you were created for tough? Mm-hmm. You weren't created for easy. And there's going to be times that you will hurt so hard you won't know how to breathe. Really. There'll be people in your world that you love so much that will go. They'll leave this world and you'll hurt. And at those times, who do you have? And when I think about moments, I think of those moments. I think about moments like Helen's dad was like the most amazing person on the planet. And she loved him probably more than me. And when he passed away, I just know holding her, you don't have to say a word. It's not what you say at the moment, it's who you are. Yeah. And it's the commitment that you have. And those are the moments that make life what they are. Mm-hmm. It's not the easy stuff, it's the tough stuff. And like I said, you were created for that. You can do it. And I love what you said before. There'll be another one in the fire, standing next to me. He's never leaving us. And you'll appreciate your relationship with God more in those tough moments than you'll ever will any other time of your life.
Wow.
Awesome. What do you guys think, Pastor John and Helen, this morning?